Hey Zooglers, this is Chris from Bandzoogle.com. I'm here doing another site review, this time for KevinBarberMusic.com. So let's check it out. So this is Kevin's site. As you can hear, he's a jazz rockabilly guitarist. He has a great tone. His website is very clean and simple, and it has a lot of content. I'm going to talk a bit about the design, and then we'll go into the content and organization. I think the design is great. It's nice and simple. I have a preference toward having really simple designs. I find that the simpler the design you have, the more people will focus on your content rather than the template style or anything flashy on your page. Kevin's using one of our older template styles. Some of the old templates are a bit narrow. When we launched Bandzoogle way back in 2003, the standard screen size was 800 by 600. So that means the templates were around 760 pixels wide. So you can see the content, when you have it in two columns with a narrow template like this, it gets a little tight. Newer templates, or if you use the custom style editor, they're at 960 pixels. That's because there's a new kind of bigger screen size standard of 1024 by 768 most people are using. So my suggestion for Kevin, because he has such a lot of content and he wants to use a column format, it might be better for him to use a wider template design. And there's a bunch of wider template styles. As I mentioned, he's doing a great job with his content. So he has a news feed, he has a blog, he posts videos, and what's also cool, he has a section called Woodshed where he posts videos of himself kind of coming up with ideas for tracks. He talks a lot about guitar stuff like chord progressions and how he got his tone with his Fender amp. Interesting stuff for not only guitarists but people who are kind of fans of his music. So that's really cool. I think it's one thing that musicians really miss out on is kind of giving fans behind the scenes info of how you're creating your music. So that's great. One thing that isn't so great is that it's hidden here in a drop down, and he has a blog, but he also has a news feed on his front page. My suggestion here is to kind of merge the blog, the news feed, and any of his video blog posts into a single feed and put it on your front page. You could also use that for upcoming shows so that you just have one single big content area flow, and you just keep posting your content to one place rather than having your content in a bunch of different places internally in the site. So I would definitely change this news and upcoming shows to just one blog feed. Put your video there. The next thing about the front page, there's a few calls to action. They're all different and they're kind of targeting different people. For example, this main one here is to hire Kevin to play gigs. Then he has a call to action here to get a free MP3 if he joins the mailing list. And further down, he has links to buy his CD and merch. The problem with having numerous calls to action is that the more you have on the page, the more everything kind of gets diluted. I think that having just a big feed of info and then one single call to action, whatever your primary one is, might be the best situation for him. So going further in, like I said, he has a great video section. He has a store page, and it has a bit of the same problem in that he has merch and a drop down, and then on his main store page he has all his music. Part of the problem I can imagine is because he has the narrow template style. To me, it would be better to not use a drop down to hide your merch. He does have a link to the merch page, but because he has lots of stuff, what I would say is he should have a store page just be kind of a landing page with two image features on it, one that would link to his music and one that would link to his merch, and then set each of those pages as not in menu. One thing about his merch, which is good to mention, he has a really nice photo of his merch. A lot of bands take crappy merch photos, and especially when you're trying to sell something, you want to have a nice description of the merch, but also have really great photos. You want something that fans would want to buy, and I think that that's shown here with all of his merch. I'm going to go on to his contact page. Again, he uses a drop-down for the hiring section. I think the hire me section is really important, and I can see that he's kind of out of buttons, so using a wider template would be important, and then I would definitely have the hire me section as its own section on the site rather than a drop-down in the contact area. So on the contact area, one thing that I noticed is that he has his email address here, but he also has a contact form. I really recommend not putting your email address right on the page. First off, you're totally going to get spammed. So that's basically what spammers look for. They try to find your email address on the page. The other thing about having the email address on the page is a link. A lot of people use things like Gmail or Hotmail or Yahoo. And unless they set up their computer properly, if you click on the email link, it doesn't necessarily bring up their default web mail client. It would bring up whatever mail program is installed on that computer, which isn't necessarily what they want to use. I think that most people are comfortable using a mail form, and it protects you from spam. It's really easy to use. So I would stick with just using the mail form and then have your physical address if you want. And then he has a guest book on the bottom. Got to decide how important the guest book is. If it's important, I don't know that you would put it on the contact page. I would put it as its own page just so that it's easy to access. Because looking at the contact page now, he does mention scroll down to sign the guest book, but if I didn't read this tiny text, I would never see it. So I would add the Hire Me section, and I would add a guest book section if he thinks the guest book is important. One great thing that he does have is he has a press kit. The press kit it's a little busy, but he has all of the information that a band needs, and I think it's important that everybody check out his press kit page. It has things like downloadable PDFs of high quality images, which is really good if you need something for print. It has his bio. It has blank posters. So if somebody's booking you and they need to, add some text about the venue, it's perfect for that. He has quotes from bookers, which is really a good sign. And he has his contact form on here. He has his one sheet. It's really a well organized press kit, and I think it goes to show how professional he is, and it goes to helping him get hired. I think it's great to have this, and I think other musicians should check it out to see how they could structure their press kit. That said, it is a drop down from the home page. I think that maybe having that as its own section would be good. You're getting to the point of having maybe too many buttons, but if you really want to call attention to it, I think it's okay to have 8 or 9 buttons at that point. I think that's maybe the limit. But yeah, I think that not having to hunt for the press kit's pretty important. Aside from that, I think it's great. I think that he could maybe make a bit of a more visually interesting header, and I'm going to cover that in one of my upcoming videos, how to make a really clean and simple header. He has like a neat logo here that it's kind of hard to see. I think you could see it in his merch page. So he has a neat logo here, which used to be on his site, but he kind of dropped it in exchange for this photo. I think that the logo is kind of cool, and you could build a more unique site around a strong logo like that, rather than just the image here. It's something to play with. But I think that he has a great start for his website. I think that he has great content. He just needs to tweak the organization a little bit. But in terms of a fan or a booker hitting his site, he has everything he needs in his website. So he's doing a great job. So that's it. I hope you guys like these site reviews. I'm going to keep doing them on a weekly basis going forward. Thanks a lot for listening.